There is a pen with which I am obsessed, so it's time for our final quest. It's time to see which pen is best. It's time for the pen test. So lately I've been getting a few comments which I didn't expect, but which, after a little bit more consideration, I've realized may have a little bit of truth to them. This comment here says, Peter, when are you going to actually test the limits of your pens? When are you going to see what they're actually truly capable of? You know, that's a good thought. Today, we're going to see, in one regard, what this Muji pen is capable of. Yes, this is my favorite pen, and oh, my sweet, sweet little pen. I'm sorry to do this to you, but you have been living a very posh, comfortable, nice life, both on my desktop, in my pocket. There's a nice pocket. You've been living the good life. But today, I'm sorry to say, it's time to see what you are truly capable of. Okay, you ready? Are you up for it? Do you have what it takes when it really comes down to it? I'm going to take this, my favorite and most frequently used pen at the moment, fountain pen, and strap it into this, the AxiDraw V3, a hulking metal monster of machined and folded aluminum, a precision machine. I have shown this pen a lot of kindness, mercy, loving support, but this machine knows nothing of those things. It knows only mindless, endless, relentless lines, and today we're going to see if this pen can put up with it. A stress test, an endurance test. Can it make it? All right, let's strap it in right here. Goes into this little clip. It's all right, buddy. It's all right. It's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. You're going to feel a slight pressure as I tighten this little screw. Yeah? Is that comfortable? Okay. And now, let's begin the first test, the initial test, which will consist of a lot of lines. All right, so as you can see, this test pretty much consists of a bunch of lines at a 45-degree angle filling up the whole page. And I was really, really impressed with the pen's performance here. It did really well. There were no skips to speak of, and the line consistency was incredible. I have, prior to recording this video, I did try something similar to this the day before using a Pilot G2 pen, which also performed really well. It didn't have, it did have a couple skips actually, and also there were a couple of like dots or splotches in the lines, which are just a little less consistent than this pen. I don't know, the lines are just so nice and consistent. Actually, there were some deviations in the line. Some of the inconsistency, I think, came from the paper as it was gradually getting coated in ink. It's kind of started warping. And I think this kind of made it look like there was a little bit of it looks like a weird wave effect was going across the paper. Anyway, so I have to use some software for this. First of all, you have one instrument, which is the pen, right? And then another instrument is actually the plotter machine, which is called AxiDraw. And with that comes software you have to use. You use Inkscape, which is like a free image editing and drawing program. So I had to learn how to use Inkscape, which I still haven't all the way. Kind of a learning curve there, which I had to tackle. But basically what I did here was had it draft a whole bunch of 45-degree lines about 2 pixels apart, which of course there aren't pixels on paper, but that's the spacing I used, and it went fine. This first test took 30 minutes, and the pen didn't run out of ink at all. All right. You poor little guy. You made it. You made it through the first test. Let me tell you, you did great, okay? And not a peep, not a word of complaint or anything. I'm so impressed and proud of you. Okay, so good job. I'm going to let you catch your breath. Whoa. I just blew out this candle and it is smoking so much. You guys see that? Anyways, great job drawing all those lines without a single hiccup. Good job. Now that we know the pen is capable, let's try to draw like an actual picture, all right? All right, so after that first test, I figured it was time to move on with something a little more complicated, something that that actually felt like a little bit more creation, right? Instead of just a bunch of 45-degree lines on a paper. And so what I did was I created a kind of a digital collage with Photoshop, and then I imported it into Inkscape. And basically when it turns like a digital image into something that can be plotted, it has to create a bunch of paths, which, it drags the pen across the paper in these paths. The digital image I had was pretty much all grayscale, and I did 2 different plots on top of each other here for this image. The first plot was just one standard thing where it was just finding some edges or whatever, something very standard, straightforward. But the second plot I did was actually looking at 8 different layers and gradients of grayscale in the image, and then doing 8 scans of that. So really, yeah, it did a bunch of layers, right? Kind of like a topographical map of where each, lightest to darkest, each level layer of gray kind of grew out. I don't really know how to explain it, but I did realize that the pen was moving, it would start at the bottom of the y-axis and move along the x-axis, slowly working its way up the paper, every now and then going off on little tangents up around the paper, as I guess it was grouping some lines together. But it was a little bit frustrating to watch because it would, with this method of plotting, first of all, let me say the first experiment we did took 30 minutes, and then this second drawing I had it do took 6 hours and 30 minutes. It's significantly longer, and a lot more ink was on the paper. It did a lot more drawing. It's a lot more complicated, but also I think it took a lot longer because it spent a lot more time moving the pen around without actually drawing, because there are like a lot of little dots and blips. And then, like I said, it did 8 layers for the second plot I did. And it kind of frustrated me that it didn't just do all the drawing it had in one area before going on to the next area. The pen would just like move around back and forth, do a little dot here, a little dot there, a little dot there, moving back and forth around. I mean, the plotter moves quickly, but if you just do one dot and then move all the way to the other side of the paper, do a dot, move all the way back, do a little dot, right? That's just it's not efficient, right? So there are a lot of options in the Inkscape extension for this AxiDraw thing, which I have not completely familiarized myself with. I haven't, I've tried out a few different options. There's options for, optimizing the pathing and stuff, which I've toyed around with a little, but obviously I haven't figured it out completely. I'd love to see if I can figure it out completely. So instead of doing all these different layers and, I don't know, it's the computer is approaching it in a very computerized way. Like in the olden days, when you would watch an image load with slow internet, it would go, the image would either load from the top or the bottom, like row of pixels by row of pixels. That's what it was kind of doing as it plotted these lines. But I guess it really makes sense why it's drawing it this way. But it was frustrating for me to watch all the wasted movement. I wish it would just stay in one spot, draw all the lines that are ever going to be drawn on that one spot of paper, and then move on to another area. Of course, I don't know of the programming that this would take. I know nothing about that. Maybe it's not actually more efficient. I have no idea. Maybe there's an option to collapse all those layers that it was doing separately, and I have no idea if what I'm saying here makes any sense at all to you. But maybe as you watch this all sped up, it makes sense. But also one thing I thought was ironic, these days we see more and more automation happening. People being put out of work due to advancing technology and everything. And I was always in the back of my head thinking, well, at least if I can make it as an artist, I can, I can't imagine a machine or a robot taking my job. But here I have bought myself a robot, and I'm slowly teaching it how to do my job. There it was, drawing next to me on my desk with my pen on paper that I bought, doing a drawing that I designed. I guess that's a little better. It was drawing beside me for 6 hours. Little metal arm, little metal claw tightly gripping my Muji pen for 6 hours. And I was just sitting here fiddling around on my computer, checking up on it every now and then. I'm like, I guess I still get paid for what the machine does, so that's good. I think. I don't know. We just got to be careful. As long as the machine doesn't start designing its own art and selling its own art and making its own YouTube videos, then we're okay, right? Right. Anyways, no, but it worked pretty good. And this whole time I was drawing, 7 hours of drawing, relentless, nonstop, no breaks, right? Because this machine never has to take breaks, bathroom breaks, anything. Not even to get up, stretch its legs. This pen never ran out of ink, and it's not got like a huge reservoir, and it was only filled up maybe 3/4 of the way. Not one ink run out, not one skip. I was very impressed. I think the Muji pens passed my thrown together stress test with flying colors. Of course, I didn't expect any less. I knew the Muji pen could do it. That's why. But maybe I could work this into some future pen reviews. Just a little stress test with the AxiDraw, my mechanical claw drawing machine. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how I can work it into some future stuff, because it's an interesting middle ground between physical and digital art, because you have to digitally control it, but it physically makes art. Especially, I think I like it how I can put any type of pen in it, because it can hold a pen like a fountain pen at a 45-degree angle or straight up and down. That's how I used it with the Pilot G2. I think it's pretty cool. It was kind of an impulse buy. Someone sent me a message about it on Instagram saying I should try it out. So I did. And yeah. All right. I'll see you later. Hope you're all doing all right. I'm doing okay. All right. Goodbye, everyone. All right.